Are you experiencing stress, anxiety, or unhappiness? Do you feel weighed down by the past? Stay tuned for a special message from Roland Trujillo, host of the Shedding Shackles radio program. For over 25 years, Roland Trujillo has been helping people shed the shackles of unhappy memories, consisting of upset, hurt feelings, and negative emotions that bind them to the past. Over the years, many people have listened to and benefited from Roland's positive message. Perhaps you too can discover the secret to becoming free from the past and moving forward to live a new life of joy and purpose. And now, here's your Shedding Shackles host, Roland Trujillo.
Yes, that's the first thing you have to let go of, because you do have control over your resentment. Like I said, you may not have control over, becoming a little bit nervous and anxious and so on and so forth around people. See, look at what upsets you now. Look at what it is that's upsetting you the most. Isn't it people? And why? When you look at people around you, most of them are practically strangers, aren't they? So why should you react to strangers? Why should you get angry at strangers and hate strangers and be get hurt feelings by strangers and be terrified by strangers and be made nervous by other people? Why should that happen? You know why? Because when you were a little child, somebody upset you and terrorized you and made you afraid and threatened you and pressured you and made you cry and threatened you and pulled upon your feelings and so on and so forth. Now, who would do such a thing to a little child? Who would do such a thing? Undoubtedly, it was someone who should have had your best interests at heart. See, the person who terrified you and yelled at you and screamed at you and pressured you and rejected you and threatened you and was constantly pressuring you to do more, do better, be nicer, and so on and so forth. Well, undoubtedly, it was someone like your mother or your grandmother or your aunt or possibly your dad. But nowadays, a lot of dads aren't even there. Nowadays, a lot of dads are not even there. They're gone. There was a divorce. They're far away. Maybe you see them only once in a long while. So maybe it was your dad, but probably he wasn't around. Or if he was a non-factor. Your dad was a non-factor. He sat in the living room. He watched television. He mowed the grass. He said a little this and that at the dinner table. But who was really in charge? Who was really in charge? Well, you know who it was. It was Mom. But Mom was angry. Mom was very angry underneath. And who was she angry at? Well, she was angry at Dad. And why was she angry at Dad? Because he wasn't a good authority. He was weak. He was a weak people pleaser. He was an appeaser. Or perhaps he was angry and violent. Or perhaps he was just not there. But something was missing, so he wasn't a good authority, so she resented him for that. And so she was angry. And she walked around angry at him all the time and judging him. And so being angry all the time and judging another person all the time, what does that do? You know what it does? It separates you from your own inner good. It separates you from God's inner light. It separates you from love. And it permits the outside to get in. It permits the outside to get in. And when the outside gets inside, then you begin to express what was outside. And that's what happened to her. She began to express, instead of expressing, see, what it should have been is Father, had he been a good authority, had he been there with patience, long-suffering, courage, strength, and so on, virtue, had he been there, had he been a good representative, like Christ was, of the Father, then Father would have represented the good Father. And Mother, seeing the good in him, could then relax a little bit and let go of her grudge against all men who had failed her. See, her whole life, men had failed her, beginning with her father. Men had failed her and disappointed her. But if she could have seen the good, if she could have seen that good, that agape love, coming from another dimension, if she had seen that in your dad, then she might very well have been able to let go of her grudge and her resentment and her negativity. And then, instead of pressuring you, see, she took in the outside. What the teacher said, what the coaches said, what the administrator said, what the media said, what the experts said, what the books said, what her parents had said, what her mom had said. She took that all in, and then she laid it upon you. She took in the outside with no buffer, with nothing to balance things out. That's what Dad is for. He represents patience. He represents calmness. He represents wisdom. And he could have quietly said something that would have made everything good. And yeah, she may have given him a hard time for a while. Let's say that he found himself. Let's say that one day your dad realized, see, and this should happen to you. If you're a dad, you should sit around and realize, hey, there's something wrong. My wife is angry at me. I don't know why. My kids are rebelling. I see my wife yelling at the kids and bossing them around. It's very painful. But I'm afraid to speak up to her because then she'll tell me all this stuff about me, about how I'm not making enough money and how I'm not as good as this other guy is as far as making money, and I'm not very handy, and she'll give me a hard time, and I don't want her to give me a hard time, and so I'm just not going to say anything. I'm going to go along and I'm going to be real nice. And then maybe she'll be nice too if I'm nice. And so he became a weak people pleaser. Or maybe he tried being angry, but then when he was angry, then she hated him even more. If he was violent, then everybody hated him. So what did he do? Chances are he just totally wimped out and became a non-factor. But maybe one day he wakes up and he says, you know what, I'm not the man I should be. And I'm going to have to start making some changes. And I'm going to start letting go of my anger and my resentment. And I'm going to start expressing love and patience. And I'm going to speak up for what's right. And I'm not going to be a people-pleasing doormat anymore. But I'm not going to be angry either. I'm going to cry out to my Creator. I am going to cry out to my Creator and ask Him to help me, because right now I don't have patience. I don't have love. I don't have whatever it is that my wife needs. I don't have it. And so I need it. And the only place I'm going to get it is from Him. See, with that kind of an attitude, then he can start to get better. And when he gets better, guess what? Everything will get better. So, like I said, maybe for a while she'll give him a hard time. You know why she'll give him a hard time? Because she won't believe that it's the real thing. See, some men, they try to be nice and so on, but it's just an act. They're just walking around on eggshells because he wants something from her, and he wants to be popular, and he wants people to like him. So it's just phony. Or he cleans up his act for a while, but then he goes back to whatever it was before. See, when he doesn't get his ego fix enough from her, then what does he do? Then he turns to booze, he turns to marijuana, he turns to drugs, he turns to gambling, he turns to his false friends, he turns to another woman. You see what I mean? So he's weak. He's also created by the world, by the outside, and he's dependent upon it. And his ego is totally made by the outside world, the outside authority. And so he must keep going back to it for reinforcement and for comfort and for reassurance. Do you understand that? So now he must find his Creator and then look to his Creator for guidance. Look to his Creator for reinforcement, not to his wife. Look to his Creator for approval, not to his wife. Look to his Creator for reassurance, not to his wife. Do you understand? And then he becomes independent, and he has strength, and he can stand for the good. And her seeing this good in him. Oh, what I wanted to say is, yeah, she may give him a hard time for a while, but that's good for him. You know why? Because he can prove that what he has is the real thing. And she then becomes a stress to him, but now a stress that helps him to become stronger. The more unreasonable she becomes, the more reasonable he becomes. The angrier she becomes, the calmer he becomes. And so her stress now helps him to grow stronger. Do you understand? So you must learn how to be like that, to be close to your Creator and look to Him. And then any stresses that come along only help you to grow stronger. In the face of torment, you remain patient. In the face of opposition, cruel opposition, thoughtless, mean, heartless opposition, arbitrary opposition, you continue to hold your ground and stand for truth, and you don't hate anybody. And you know what? You are very close. In fact, you may have found the kingdom of God, and now you belong to the kingdom of God. And you can be the shining light that comes into the world. And other people, upon seeing it, are given hope. And they, too, may one day become a member of the kingdom of God. Did you know that my most popular book is The Myths and Mysteries of Marriage? A spiritual and practical look at relationships. My favorite chapter is How to Forgive and Forget. The Myths and Mysteries of Marriage. Check it out at Amazon.com or SheddingShackles.com. I have a book about Einstein and intuition. You should get it. A book about St. Augustine and how he used his intuition, how he had that free, carefree spirit, and how they did reality checks. How do you think Einstein discovered everything that he discovered? He just remained more innocent and closer to that inner ground. And so he was doing a reality check more than you do. That's the difference between him and you. He did more reality checks, and he did what he gathered there. And so did St. Augustine. And so did all the wonderful, sweet people that ever lived. Now, I want you to go to my website and get the meditation. Give it a try. It's free. It's free. And my website is SheddingShackles.com, SheddingShackles.net, or SheddingShackles.us. Until next time, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.
You have been listening to Shedding Shackles with your host, Roland Trujillo. Now you can listen to Roland anytime by logging on to www.SheddingShackles.com. You'll find lots of free, helpful information, and you can also order materials or make a donation by using your credit card. Once again, the web address is SheddingShackles.com. Please remember that Shedding Shackles is listener-supported. Thank you.